Imagine going to sleep in your own bed, in your own village, and just never waking up. The night is perfectly quiet. The air is still. There are no warning sirens, no sounds of impending doom whatsoever, just the peaceful dark. And then, without a single sound, the end arrives.
You know, throughout human history, disasters have almost always announced their arrival. We see the dark, swirling clouds of a hurricane, we feel the violent tremors of an earthquake, or we hear the deafening roar of a flood. But the absolute deadliest forces of nature, sometimes are the ones you can neither hear nor see. No war, no earthquake, no flood, just silence. There were literally no falling bombs to flee from. The ground didn't split open, and no torrential rains washed anything away. This tragedy was defined entirely by a terrifying, inexplicable absence of anything ordinary.
Over 1,700 people mysteriously died in their sleep that night. Over 1,700 lives just extinguished in a matter of minutes. And when the morning sun finally rose, the victims were found exactly where they had fallen asleep. There were absolutely no signs of a struggle, no wounds on their bodies, zero warning. And tragically, there were almost no survivors who could even begin to comprehend, let alone explain, what had actually happened in the dark. For days, the whole world was left staring at this chilling mystery, until experts started looking beneath the surface.
To really wrap our heads around the horror of this explainer, we have to rewind the clock a bit. Tucked away among rolling green hills in a remote, lush region of Cameroon sat Lake Nyos. Resting quietly inside the crater of an ancient volcano, it was this remarkably beautiful, tranquil body of water. To the locals, it was simply home. Children played right there in the shallow waters. Farmers worked tirelessly in the surrounding fields, relying heavily on that rich volcanic soil. Herds of animals grazed peacefully along the banks. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, right? The lake was a source of life, not death. But underneath that calm, glass-like surface, a deadly secret was quietly building. A secret absolutely nobody knew existed.
That illusion of safety shattered when the delicate balance of nature finally failed. The villages had settled in for the night, fires were dying down, and then, deep within the depths of Lake Nyos, without any warning at all, something triggered the lake. First, an unknown trigger. Honestly, to this day, scientists still debate what exactly caused it. Maybe it was a sudden landslide crashing into the water, or maybe some subtle volcanic activity shifted the lakebed. But whatever the catalyst was, it led straight to step 2, a massive gas eruption. Millions of tons of invisible gas violently broke the lake's surface, rocketing straight into the atmosphere. And finally, step 3. This massive, unimaginably heavy cloud of death rushed rapidly down the valleys, heading straight for those sleeping villages below. So what was this silent killer? It was carbon dioxide. Now, carbon dioxide is a heavy, completely invisible gas. Because it's substantially heavier than the surrounding air, it doesn't just float up and dissipate into the sky. Instead, it acts a lot like an avalanche. It stays close to the ground, creeping along the earth and pouring down into those low-lying valleys. And as it moves, it rapidly pushes the lighter, breathable oxygen right out of the air. The people sleeping in their homes never even saw it coming. Every single breath they took drew in poison instead of life. The immediate aftermath was, well, it was apocalyptic. Within mere minutes of that cloud descending, entire families lost consciousness in their beds, never to wake up again. The sheer concentration of the carbon dioxide meant that survival was practically impossible. Animals out in the fields collapsed instantly right where they stood. Even the birds roosting in the lower branches of the trees simply suffocated and fell lifelessly from the sky. Vibrant, bustling communities were transformed into eerily silent graveyards overnight. The next morning, the very few who actually managed to survive woke up to an unimaginable nightmare. They stepped out of their homes only to find their loved ones, their neighbors, their livestock, all lying completely motionless. Entire communities had literally vanished overnight, leaving behind a silence so deep it just defied all reason. Desperate for answers, some folks believed that malevolent evil spirits had swept through the valley. Others, living in a pretty complicated political era at the time, feared they'd been the victims of some highly advanced, secret chemical weapon. But as international scientists arrived and began sampling the air and the water, the terrifying truth finally emerged. It wasn't the supernatural, and it wasn't the military. Nature itself had become the killer. So how exactly did nature manufacture a weapon like this? Well, Lake Nyos is set directly above an ancient volcanic system. Deep underground, carbon dioxide gas was constantly, quietly leaking into the lake. Year after year, the cold, high-pressure water at the very bottom trapped all this gas. It's exactly like a giant bottle of soda being vigorously shaken. The pressure at the bottom just kept growing and growing, tightly contained by the immense weight of the water above it. Until finally, that trigger occurred. The pressure became way too great, and the lake violently exploded. This was a massive shock to the scientists. Usually, when we think of a volcanic crater exploding, we picture towering fountains of glowing lava or massive, devastating floods of water. But Lake Nyos had exploded with gas, an invisible, silent eruption. It's a scientific phenomenon so incredibly devastating, it forced experts to completely rethink the hidden dangers of volcanic lakes across the globe.
Unfortunately, discovering the cause didn't end the nightmare. Over 1,700 people and thousands of animals had perished, but the absolute most terrifying part of this whole ordeal was the realization that it could easily happen again. Lake Nyos was still sitting right above that ancient volcanic system. The carbon dioxide was still leaking, and those deep waters still contained dangerously high levels of gas. They had to do something to tame the lake. To prevent history from repeating itself, specialized teams were brought in to install a series of unique, heavily reinforced pipes directly into the deepest parts of the water. These pipes basically act as massive pressure valves. They continuously and slowly siphon that carbon dioxide gas right from the bottom, safely releasing it into the atmosphere in totally harmless amounts. By venting the lake like this, engineers are actively reducing the internal pressure year after year, effectively deflating that deadly subterranean soda bottle.
Thanks to those relentless mitigation efforts, Lake Nyos is continuously monitored today. If you were to visit the region right now, the lake looks just as peaceful and beautiful as it did decades ago. The water is completely calm, the surrounding hills are lush and green. But beneath that tranquil surface lies a permanent reminder of the awesome, terrifying, and totally unpredictable power of our planet. It stands as a monument to one of the strangest natural disasters in recorded history, a disaster that wiped out entire generations. And it did so without the consuming heat of fire, without the crushing force of floods, and without the deafening roar of explosions. It conquered entirely through a silent cloud, drifting through the night, stealing the breath from thousands. Which brings us to a final, lingering thought for this explainer. Imagine you live near a lake that looks completely normal, a lake that provides water, beauty, and life to your community. But you know that deep beneath its surface, it holds the potential to become unimaginably deadly without a single moment of warning. Knowing what lies beneath, would you stay there or would you leave forever?